Forget free trade abroad. We don't even have it in Canada. I'm Brian Lilley with the Rebel.media. With all the hand-wringing by the elites in this country over the United Kingdom deciding to Brexit out of Europe, you would think that everyone was all about free trade these days. We've just finished the Three Amigos Summit, where Canada, Mexico, the United States got together to discuss NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And yet, we still don't have free trade within our own borders. That's right. Take a look at this story from the Globe and Mail. It's talking about how there is an ongoing meeting between the provinces and the federal government trying to hammer out a new agreement on internal trade. That's trade within Canada's borders, inside the country. We have to have an agreement on that. I thought this was settled at a little thing called Confederation. But of course, if you've been following the news, everything from cross-border beer sales to margarine, you know, that's not the case, and our courts have upheld restrictive trade barriers between the provinces that don't even exist between Canada and some of our top trading partners. Let me read to you from the Globe and Mail's article. It says, Ontario, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Prince Edward Island have all agreed to what one official called a gold standard that would open up all government procurement to outside firms. But sources say negotiations hit a snag 2 weeks ago when Alberta's government sought exemptions to the deal. One source said Alberta is proposing an exemption that would ensure at least 20% of public procurement contracts go to local companies. So, Alberta wants to block companies from provinces outside of Alberta from bidding on government contracts. Is that something that we would accept if the Americans were trying to do that to Canadian firms? Probably not. We would fight it through NAFTA. We'd fight it through the World Trade Organization. We would say that Canadian firms have the right to bid. We did that during the stimulus spending that was going on during the 2008 financial crisis. We fought to make sure that Canadian steel could be used on infrastructure projects inside the United States. But somehow we don't have the same free flow of goods and services, of manufactured wares that we do between countries. It's a little bit odd. It brings me back to the story of Gerard Comeau. This is the New Brunswick man that was caught with a whole truckload of beer cases heading back from Quebec into his native New Brunswick. The New Brunswick government charged him with illegally importing alcohol. They fined him, they seized his beer, he took it to court, and he won. How? By citing Section 121 of the Canadian Constitution. This isn't a new Pierre Elliott Trudeau Charter edition of the Constitution. This goes back to the original document, the one that we all agreed to that would come into effect on the 1st of July, 1867. Well, here we are 149 years later, and it's still not working. Let me read to you exactly what Section 121 of the Constitution says. All articles of the growth, produce, or manufacture of any one of the provinces shall, from and after the Union, be admitted free into each of the other provinces. Seems pretty clear. We have free trade inside our own borders. But that's never the way the premiers wanted it. It might have been the way some wanted it, might have been the way the federal government wanted it at the time. But politicians are protectionist by nature, and they continue to be, at least some. And right now, the most protectionist is Rachel Notley, who wants this set aside, who wants to negotiate her way to what the Constitution says should already exist. After the Comeau case, after the beer case, the Conservatives said this was an opportunity to use a court ruling to blow open something that governments of all stripes at the federal level have been trying to grapple with for decades, forcing the provinces to adhere to free trade principles within Canada's own borders. Unfortunately, the Liberals don't want to go that route. They want to have managed trade within Canada. They're worried that a direct interpretation, a strict interpretation of Section 121 might lead to doing away with milk boards or different aspects of agriculture cartels that exist throughout the country. Doesn't have to be that way, but that's what could happen. We are one country, and we either will live as one country or continue to bicker and have stronger ties north-south with the United States than we do across our own provincial boundaries. This is a case of the federal government trying to manage and trying to come up with a solution that is all about government control, rather than just reading what the Constitution says and adhering to it. Canada was founded on having free trade within our borders. It's time we lived up to the promise of 1867.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.